Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Underwater Photography Show. As always, I'm Matthew Sullivan.
And I'm Alex Mustard.
And today we have our first repeat guest on the Underwater Photography Show. We are welcoming back Shane Gross. He's our good friend. He also happens to be the most recent Wildlife Photographer of the Year winner. So we're having him on to talk about his winning picture, the entire Wildlife Photographer of the Year experience. It's a bit of a longer interview, so if you guys have the time, be prepared for it. But we really dug in deep on his picture, the experience, the story behind the picture, and then the entire process of Wildlife Photographer of the Year and some of the doors that it has opened for him. So with that, we would like to welcome Shane to the show. Hey, Shane, welcome back to the show. You're our first repeat guest, and we're happy to have you back.
Hey, thanks so
And
much for having me. As I've said before, I'm a big fan, and I've never missed an episode of the Underwater Photography Show, so it's a real honor to be here.
Appreciate that.
yeah, thanks. And yeah, what an exciting reason to have you back because, as everyone watching this knows, we are incredibly proud, incredibly happy that your picture was the overall winner in the Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition, meaning you are the Wildlife Photographer of the Year. So many, many congratulations on that. I know both of us were genuinely over the moon with that result. It was really exciting, really, really fantastic for underwater photography as a whole. I think whenever a great underwater photographer and underwater photo goes out there, it benefits the whole community. It raises the profile of what everyone is doing. And so, yeah, it's not just a win for you. We're all claiming our little bit of it. Got a finger on the back of the guy in front who's got the back on your back, who getting towards the trophy. So congratulations.
And
Well, thank you so much for that, guys, and you guys both sent me messages straight away after, and so many people did, and super grateful for that. I'm still pretty shocked that it went all the way. I was so not expecting to win. But obviously I'm not disappointed about it.
I'm,
it
I'm
was
going to pull you up, actually. I'm going to put this back on the gallery. I was going to pull you up on that not expecting to win. Because I know you say that very genuinely. But, I've been in the position a couple of times where I've been, a category winner in the Wildlife Photographer for the Year and in that lineup for the overall win. And I've been, very relaxed about it. I remember the last time I was chugging glasses of wine during it because I knew there was no reason I was going to go up to speak because I always thought, well, if I was the overall winner, they would have asked me for much more stuff ahead of time. Like they just like I filled in the form and then turned up on the night. And I'm like, surely if you're the overall winner, you get a feeling because they're like, yeah, this short paragraph you wrote, can you ever say a bit more? But you just didn't have any idea. I know you didn't, because
No.
I think the funniest thing is you were recording it to record whoever was actually named as the overall winner.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I truly had no idea. They kept it a very good secret. And the jury chair, Kathy Moran, I was working with her on a different project, and we had several video calls since the jury had decided who won, and she did not hint at it at all. Like there was um, no
Wow.
sense that it had a real shot at winning the overall. And the category winners, as some of you will know, they put you up in the same hotel. So I was in there with a bunch of other category winners, and everything's a secret, but you kind of chat a little bit and whatever. And people would say, well, so do you think you have a chance at winning the overall? And I was like, no, there's no way. And they're like, well, you have a speech prepared, don't you? I was like, nah, there's no reason to waste any mental energy on that at all. Like, I think I thought it was a category winner. I liked the image. And I was happy there. I was happy to win the wetlands bigger picture category, and that be it. But yeah, like you said, I was ready to film the winning video for John Marriott or Tom Peschek or whoever was going to win. I was so convinced it was not going to be me.
I, the my favorite video or picture that I saw from the whole thing was Kareen's video of you and your face when they announced you winning, and just it looks like every thought in your brain just vanished in that moment. You're just completely dumbfounded. And it was awesome. I laughed aloud when I saw the because I didn't realize when I saw that video that they don't tell you ahead of time that you're the overall winner. And then I found out that you had no idea, and that reaction was so much more genuine and fantastic to me. So it really made me chuckle when I watched that. And I watched it several times just because the look in your face was priceless.
Like the first thing that went through my mind was honestly like, is this a joke? Is this the cruelest joke that anyone could possibly play on me? And that's why I was looking like suspicious, like what's going on? Is this a dream? What's happening? Yeah, it was absolutely surreal.
You didn't walk up to stage, find yourself standing there with your pajamas on, and everyone else is dressed up to the nines, and
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's so exciting. So for those that don't know you as well as us two, maybe it'd be great if you could tell us a little about the image, how it came about, and that side of things. But I would like to us get back to again the whole feeling of winning and what you feel it's going to do for you career wise and all that side before we wrap up. But yeah, like we should
Yeah.
start by talking about the picture.
Sure. Why don't I bring it up?
And I will
Sharing.
say, I was stoked A for you to win, and then B, because a lot of times in these competitions, at least for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of the overall winners. So it was nice that not only did you win, but it was also with an image that, selfishly I really love. That made me happy because it's unusual that especially the winner of this competition is one that I mesh with. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And I have had a lot of good feedback like that from people. And of course, the ones who disagree with it aren't going to come rushing to tell me, but
Yeah,
so many people have told me that they really enjoy the image and they've helped me to see it in a new way. Because when you're going through the images, I had 4 or 5 tadpole images that I liked, and you're nitpicking, which one should I enter? Is it this one? Is it that one? Oh, the tadpole's going the other way in this one. This one you can see the tree line. So you get nitpicky about it, and it's hard to take a step back and see it for just what it is as a standalone image, because that's all the judges are seeing,
yeah,
and that's all, the audience is seeing and everything. And so being able to see it in that way has given me a much greater appreciation for the image. I have much greater appreciation for the image now than I had before the competition, which
yeah.
is really nice. Yeah, so why don't I go ahead and share and we can have a look at some images. No, it's still saying sharing is not turned
Oh,
on.
that's my fault, actually. I'm sitting back waiting for you to start sharing. And yeah, I have to make you a host. Sorry about that. That's
Yes.
completely me.
It
So
is, well, while you do it, it is
it's
funny.
ready to share now. Sorry. That was
I was going to say it is funny what Shane just said about how oftentimes with your own pictures, you're not necessarily a huge fan of it because, well, for lack of a better term, because you've seen it so many times and you've seen the other versions of that same picture that maybe happened right before or right after. And it's not until everybody else sees it and points out the merit of it that you necessarily understand that. And I don't have an image on that scale, but I had a salmon picture that I didn't do anything with for 3 years. And then I put it in a couple competitions because a few people liked it, and then it won a lot. And now I'm more emotionally invested in it, and I can recognize the merits of it. Whereas before, it's like, I've seen all the other salmon pictures from that same day, but
Yeah,
because
and
other people haven't, it stands out.
I don't think that's uncommon. Like there was a very common theme in London talking with other awarded photographers about how, this was the 24th or 25th image of the 25 that you're allowed to enter each year. That it was not the one that they thought was going to win if one was going to win,
Yeah,
So I think it's a pretty common theme.
And I think there's a good message in just broad statistical terms for those that enter the competition and don't quite, get across the winners line, is that even the big winners lost with, 20 of their 21 entries or however many they put in. And yeah, I think it's important to remember that even the biggest names that you see there every year lose far more than they win. And you do have to play a numbers game. You do have to choose images, carefully and wisely. But even the picture that you are absolutely betting on, of all the pictures that I've had, of all the pictures I've had awarded down the years, there was only one that at the moment I shot it, I thought I would be awarded in the wildlife photographer, and that was my mating Hamlet shot. And that one was actually, I thought that would be awarded even before I'd ever been awarded in the contest. I took that shot, I saw it on the back of the camera, very early digital picture. and I was just like, this is going to win. And yeah, and as soon as I entered it, it did. And that's the only one. All the rest have been either ones that, like you say, you appreciate more as other people see them more, and you get more views on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a question a lot of people have asked me. They're like, "Oh, when you saw this in the back of the camera, did you know?" My answer is absolutely not, because I was shooting hundreds and hundreds of pictures that day, most of them blind, shooting from the hip. And it took several months to start going through them and processing them. So, I didn't even know, I had no idea what I had at the
Yeah.
time.
You're onto a good thing with what you're shooting. This is
Yeah.
working, this is good, this has got potential. But yeah, it's a lot later in the process. And I think that's one of the nice things of photography is also, the enjoyment of an image isn't just that punch in the air when you get a good shot. It's actually, it can go over time, as a picture grows, in your case, in the public domain as well. So your enjoyment of it, goes up and up and up.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, should I start sharing? We can take a look at this thing.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's go.
At the moment, we're just seeing a black screen. I think you need to share the actual app. There we go. It's up now.
All
And
right.
yeah,
And is
yeah.
it
It's still on your view of it. You need to go
yeah,
to the presenter view, to the play slideshow view.
okay. It might just be a bit of a delay. Is it up there now?
Yeah, it's up now perfectly.
Right on. So I thought we would just start off with looking at the image itself. I mean, it's been out there for a little while now, so everybody watching this has probably seen it. But this way, you know kind of what we're talking about. Um, And so I thought we'd start with talking about the lake itself. This is in, a mountain lake in northern Vancouver Island. I found out about it through, many people know Iko Jones's images from 10, 12 years ago. That's how I first found out about it. At the time, I was living in the Bahamas, so this seemed really, far away, but it was on my radar since then. And since 2020, I've been living on Vancouver Island, and made the point to ask around when the best time of year to go there was, and made a day trip up there in 2022. So the image was taken a couple of years ago. And it's where I went back to take my now, the portrait that's on all my social media and stuff like that. I thought the green of the Marlux kind of matched the green of the background a little bit. But I bring this up mostly because where I took the photo is actually in this photo. So you can see how close to shore it was. It was just in the water, just, kind of to the down left of where my right strobe is. But this is a little bit early in the season. The lily pads haven't fully come up to the surface as big as they can. This is what it looked like on the day. So I took this on the day I took the shot, and I should say this was my first time ever going to this lake, and it's the only time I've been there at the peak season when the lily pads are this full, when the tadpoles are at that stage of their metamorphosis. So, unbelievably to me, I got a Wildlife Photographer of the Year winner, and I've only really shot it one day. It wasn't a big project where I was going back and back and spending months or weeks or anything like that. It was really meant to be a fun day in the water with my partner Kayla. And but of course, as all of us photographers, we want to give it our all and get the best possible shot we can. But you can see the lily pads are quite dense, but there are these trails going through, and those are really important because the stems of the lilies are covered in sediment and detritus, and the stuff that the tadpoles are feeding on. So you really have to be careful weaving your way through there with your camera and your fins and all that sort of stuff. But this is the view, when you first get in the water and just sort of checking your settings, and you realize, wow, this is actually a beautiful spot, even without tadpoles. They're actually not lily pads. They're floating pond weeds, but I learned that after the fact. After seeing the image, a scientist reached out to me and scolded me, saying they're not lily pads, they're floating pond weeds. But just a beautiful setting, the tree line in the background. You can see there's a ton of potential for great imagery here. Um, and I got there bright and early in the morning. That's usually when, photographers are are thinking it's going to be the best time. I didn't realize that they don't really start the big migration until much later in the afternoon. So I thought maybe it was just an off day. I wasn't quite sure what was going on, so I focused on, individual tadpoles in amongst the floating pond weeds, and there was a few other people there. It's pretty quiet. There's a couple campsites nearby, and a guy came by on a paddleboard, and he's like, he saw, our equipment and everything. He's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" I said, "Oh, we're here to photograph the tadpoles." He said, "Oh yeah, well, you're a bit early. They'll come out in the afternoon." And he had a British accent. He said he was filming for BBC, so we might be seeing that come out, or maybe it already has. But tadpoles are definitely a hot topic at the moment, which is cool. I tried all kinds of things, angles, and this is one that obviously didn't work. This, trying silhouettes. I had on the Tacina 10 to 17 fisheye lens and a mini dome, but the tadpoles are pretty small, maybe a couple of inches at the biggest. So, you need to get really, really close, get them basically on the dome.
They're
And
quite a
slowly
bit
throughout the
bigger though
day.
than our tadpoles. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean the tadpoles we typically have in Europe from from our frogs and toads, which is only a couple of species, are much smaller than that. I would say maximum sort of centimeter size.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, these guys are a little bit bigger than that, and you can it's hard to get them to quite fill the frame with a fisheye, but you can get them a little bit bigger in size, which definitely helped the photo. But slowly, they started to get a little bit more dense and a little bit more dense throughout the day. And and then by the late afternoon, they're absolutely carpeting the lake bed. And you can see in the bottom left, they're starting to stir up the sediment on the bottom. And so wherever the thickest schools of them are, would also be the poorest visibility. So it's actually quite tricky to get the full density and have a nice clear image. At least it was on that day. And
How,
then
where,
you try different
sorry, Sam,
backgrounds and stuff. Yeah, sorry,
I
sorry,
didn't mean to
Mac.
cut you off.
Yeah.
Where did you get any indication? Where are they coming from if they're not active all the time? Are they bare? Because I know a lot about frogs and toads, but I've never seen anything quite like this. So where are they all coming from? Where do they go? Where do they come from, Cotton Eye Joe? I'll let you
Yeah,
start.
no, it's it's a good question. So again, I've only spent one day there. I'm certainly not an expert, but from what I've gleaned, they're starting off. They spend the night and early morning in the deep part of the lake where it's safe from
Mm.
predators. There are predators in there like giant water bugs and leeches and even garter snakes will go in there and try to get them, which is something I'd love to go back and photograph. I'd
Oh
love to
yeah.
spend way more time in this lake. It's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, there's in the deep part of the lake, which is also something I'd like to check out. Maybe they're just sitting there sleeping. I don't know. But the sun in the shallows here creates a lot of algae growth. So that's why they're swarming in schools, safety in numbers, come into the shallows and feed on the algae and detritus and stuff like that in among the lily pads there. And among some of the grasses and other areas they were swarming, but this is the prettiest, so this is where I focus most of my attention. Um, Tried going up into closer to the surface where you can see more the top of I'm gonna say lily pads. And just
A
experimenting
nice
around.
image though.
Yeah, you like that one? Okay.
Yeah. Mm.
Seal of approval.
This one I think it works. It has sold, a few times to magazines, as double page spread. So I like this one as well. I like the tangle of the vines and stuff and the colors. Yeah. And then this
I also
one,
like how you
yeah.
seem to time this well enough, intentionally or otherwise, that they're still very clearly tadpoles, but they have the back legs coming out. So you can see that it's a cool little natural history, um, cool little bit of natural history to have them part way through their metamorphosis and not still fully tadpoles.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a bit of both, a bit of luck and a bit of research. I did ask around of people who have been there many times, and they told me the best time of year to go. And then, spending one day, if they're a little early or a little late, you could kind of miss it. But reflecting back on it, I think I got a little bit lucky on that as well. So, I spent a lot of time in this spot. There was a log that had fallen and sort of, parted the vegetation, so you could see the trees in the background. And so, what I was saying earlier about you're kind of going through each image and nitpicking and thinking, oh, is it this one? Is it that one? This one placed, I think, third in the wide angle category in the underwater photographer of the year competition, which Alex was a judge. So I'll be curious to hear his thoughts on it later. But the one that won in wildlife photographer of the year, I did not enter in underwater photographer of the year. So yeah, strategy or not, I can't think back that far, but that's how it ended up being.
We actually discussed that very briefly when we were reviewing the wildlife photographer of the year this year on here, and I think we kind of actually said that I think the two images suit the two competitions rather well. I think the UPY shot, this one, is a bit more impactful. It's got the background and the foreground. It's got more depth to it. I think it's got a little bit more visual drama to it, but it's not as strong a natural history story. And I think the other one is a more beautiful image, but maybe less impactful. And I think it's got a slightly stronger story because the migration is so much stronger. And I think that does say something about what two contests are looking for, a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is an image that would appeal more to underwater photographers. We tend to like the kind of a bit more in your face style, a little bit closer to the action. We're always thinking, when you think you're close enough, get closer. Whereas with general wildlife photography, I think it's okay to take a step a little bit further away and see the bigger picture, and it might not knock you over the head as early on when you're looking at it. But it does seep in later. That's my feeling on it anyway. And then here's a short video that I'll share. A little bit of behind the scenes on how I took it, a bit of video for you.
I think, as with all underwater images, there are completely different technical challenges that you're not aware of when you look at the picture. So, for example, this photographer will have been snorkeling, no bubbles, and the angle of the image indicates that the photographer is actually low down, trying not to stir up detritus with their fins, and probably having changing light and this fast moving, thousands of tadpoles moving past. So it's a very exceptional frame to have got everything and the light.
I was in a beautiful lake in the mountains in northern Vancouver Island. I slipped in. It was absolutely glass calm and just a beautiful July day. The hardest part about photographing these little tadpoles is that they're small and almost black in a bright, beautiful background. So I had to get really, really close. I needed a lens that could focus really close and then use a bit of a front light to bring out the detail on the tadpoles. And when you look at them up close, they're not completely black. They actually have these flecks of gold across them. They're actually quite beautiful.
To think about the life cycle of tadpoles in a different way was a real surprise to all of us. So, not only that sort of extra layer of certainly new to us behavior, as well as, how attractive we found the image was really compelling. I think with every photograph that the jury chooses, we are looking for, however subtle, an underlying message about what is happening in the natural world. With the grand prize winning image, it gives us an opportunity to revisit what is happening with amphibians. I mean, there is a crisis in the amphibian world.
Like all amphibians, these western toed tadpoles face a myriad of threats. The chytrid virus being the leading one, but that's all amphibians all around the world. The ones in this lake are especially vulnerable because of the roads that we have built. Once they become little toadlets, they need to cross roads, and they often get run over, and their habitat is fragmented. With this photo, I'm hoping to tell a story of hope. Here you have a place that is still relatively pristine, and has abundant life. There are millions of tadpoles in this lake. That to me is a really special and hopeful thing.
Okay, so how it works for people who aren't familiar, they tell you that you've won the category. So I won the wetlands bigger picture category, but I had no idea that I was going to win the overall, as we've covered. So I went there, with my partner Kayla, and it was our first time to London. It was Kayla's first time to Europe, so everything was very exciting. Getting to meet the other photographers and judges and everybody was just a real treat. And as Alex will know, they put on a really classy event, and it was just really, really a wonderful time. So as I said, I won the Wetlands Bigger Picture category, presented by Chris Peckham, which was, a real treat. And the trophy this year was of Hope the blue whale. So that was a really nice touch. And then, like Alex said, I went back to my seat and was enjoying the wine a little bit more than I was before I had to give a speech. And then I was filming as they were announcing the winner. Kathy Moran was announcing the winner, and I thought my vote on that night. I mean, we had just seen the category winners for the first time, and there was only a short amount of time between seeing the category winners and them announcing the overall winner. And we were kind of whispering back and forth who we thought might win. And my money was on Tom Peschek's Pink River Dolphin image. So I was going to film for him or whoever was going to be the overall winner. And I think this video really reflects my state of mind at the time, my consciousness. So here we go.
A conservation narrative, a powerful moment, a strong aesthetic, as well as an often overlooked word. So please join me in congratulating and welcoming to the stage our 60th Wildlife Photographer of the Year 2024, all the way from Canada, Shane Gross.
So the video keeps recording on like that, just blackness for several more minutes, but I thought I'd cut it off there.
It's awesome as well because you also they didn't give you a table up near the front or anything like that where there was really no clue in that. They sort of put you kind of a few rows back. You think, oh, okay, yeah, understandable. I'm only going to go up once. So
yeah.
Yeah.
There was no they had camera people walking through the crowd to film the crowd and reactions and stuff like that. There was no camera person near me.
I guess also they don't know either. They keep it so quiet. So
yeah.
What about all that material that was in the film? Was that mostly pulled together? I mean, you obviously took some video while you went to the location, but was that footage mostly pulled together kind of in a rush afterwards, or?
Yeah, well, what happened was during the peak time of year for the tadpoles, I had already booked other things when they put out the request for this. And because I didn't think I'd win the overall, I didn't put too much effort into it. We went back out there for one day a little bit early and filmed some stuff. But they sort of said that they were doing that with all the category winners this year. And I think more of those types of videos for the other category winners are going to be coming out. But so far it's just been mine and the young overall winner. But yeah, that's how they framed it. And so I didn't put too much effort into it. And it was kind of in a rush before leaving. I spent 2.5 months in Churchill, Manitoba over the summer for something else. So this was put together in a quick rush, but they were great. They edited it all together and took care of all that side of things. So it didn't take too much effort on my part. And I'm really glad that because there was almost a moment where I was thinking about putting in even less effort and not even showing up to the ceremony, because I was already booked to be going to French Polynesia for humpback whales, and that's a trip that I lead, and so my income is dependent on that. And working out changing up the trip leader is not a great thing to do and all that. So I very seriously considered not going to the award ceremony at all, but obviously I'm glad that I made the effort.
And you'd always said to me that you regretted not going last time you were awarded. So
That's absolutely true. So I had a couple images in the 2018 competition, not winners, highly commended. And I didn't go. I had something else booked. And since then, I definitely have regretted it. And so I'm just telling you all, if you ever get a chance to go, I would highly recommend to make the effort to go. It is so much fun. It is so worth it. I've not put a lot of time, effort, money into the networking side of my photography career, probably at my detriment. But this is an amazing networking opportunity on top of all those other things. Um, so yeah, I set my phone down on the table and kind of blacked out, got up on the stage and gave a speech. I don't remember really what I said. But people have told me that it was good, so I'm gonna trust them on that. And having the award presented to me by Kathy Moran, who's a legendary photo editor, who I've gotten to know a little bit over the last few years because of the Save Our Seas Foundation Ocean Storytelling Grant. I'd encourage everybody to enter that as well. Another amazing experience. But having it presented from her was an added treat. And the trophy itself, they make these one of a kind. I mean, those are little tadpoles.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
if anybody is watching this from London and wants to do me a huge favor, I thought it might be safer to ship this back rather than put it in my suitcase when I was going to South Africa before heading home and dragging it all around the world. But the shipping company has totally botched it. I'm pretty sure it's sitting in some warehouse in London, and they won't work with me because I don't have a UK phone number or address. So I found somebody at the Natural History Museum who's helping. But if anybody watching this wants to do me a huge favor and go track this down, let me know. Because yeah,
Well, we
I'd
know
love
what Alex will be doing for the next month until he finds it. It's enjoying it.
Well, I know Alex isn't right in London, so I didn't want to put that burden on, but we'll put that call out there. And then, yeah, lots of photos on stage afterwards. And, you feel kind of like a minor celebrity for a few minutes. Everybody's coming up and congratulating you. And it's very overwhelming in the most wonderful way. And then you have to take the obligatory picture of you next to your image. And the two grand prize winning images, mine and the Young Wildlife Photographer of the Year, they had in the main gallery backlit as with all the other images, but then the two winning images, overall winning images, they printed on paper and front lit. And the richness of this print, I was really, really impressed with. So wherever it's traveling around the world, if you get a chance to go and see it, I hope you'll appreciate it even more on paper rather than on a screen. And then the next day, it's press day. So you're out celebrating late that night, of course, and then boom, 8:30 a.m., it's time to talk to the press. So it starts off at the museum itself and did dozens of interviews in front of my image. And then in the afternoon, they had somebody assigned to me from the Natural History Museum to take us around and so we could do some in-person stuff. I did an interview at Sky News, and then getting to see the BBC studios was a lot of fun. And if you are going to go to this and you have a chance at winning the overall, definitely do your homework on your subject and all that, and have some sound bites prepared. And it's still happening. This just a few days ago, I did an interview with France 24. And there's been tons of local outlets in Canada and all around the world. People are still reaching out to me for interviews on TV, radio, magazines, newspapers, all of it. So, and that's the wonderful thing about the Wildlife Photographer of the Year is it gives us a chance to talk to people who aren't already on our side of ocean conservation. And as you can see by the headline here, the topic of discussion that in this interview anyways was ocean conservation. And even when it isn't the topic, you can kind of slide it in there any way you can. So yeah, here's the image again, and that's been my experience so far. Of course, there's tons of other things that I could talk about, but I thought I'd turn it back over to Alex and Matt and see if they have any questions.
Go ahead, Alex. I'm sure you got something queued up.
Actually, I was just trying to sort the Zoom window out. Um, right, that's got us all back on the screen, hopefully, so we can see us all. I just I think what a lot of people are interested in is kind of, you've done the media stage. Have there been any interesting doors being opened to you career-wise that have come from this?
Yeah, no, very good question. And the answer is yes, but it's not, I don't have it made now. I know that I'm still going to have to grind and I'm still going to have to work really hard to make ends meet. I haven't had another job since COVID, since 2020. So this is how I make my living. And it has opened doors, but you know that over time, the excitement of it is going to wear off. And right now it's still somewhat exciting, but it's slowly going to fade. And yeah, still going to have to grind away. So, but some of the doors that have been opened, I have had
It will
people
be on
approach
your CV
me.
forever, though.
That's true. No, it's very true. No, that's another thing I like about the images. It's not controversial. No, they're not going to come back and be like, "Oh, you staged this photo," or "It was a taxidermied
Yeah, you took all the
tadpole,"
tadpoles out of an
or whatever.
aquarium.
Like so hopefully nobody can take this away from me. Um, but some of the doors that have opened is people have been approaching me, and it's put me in a different position. Instead of me having to chase people down, hey, publish my stuff, use my stuff, buy my stuff, they're coming to me. So book publishers, galleries, magazines, all kinds of people are, trying to, use my images, and that feels pretty good. And having to say no is a weird thing for me, but I've actually had to say no to quite a few things just because it would take that much time and effort to really go down that road, like to really go down the road of fine art photography, sales and galleries and all that stuff. I'm not, I'm really gone down the path of photojournalism. And so to kind of pivot or have another area, it's tempting, but it would take a lot of dedication to really go down that road. So these are some of the questions that I'm weighing now, which are good problems to have in our industry. So no, it's been really wonderful, and definitely, adding that to my CV and stuff like that is can't hurt.
I know a lot of people, particularly based on the time of year it is, the entry for the next competition is looming this week when we record this. Probably will have passed by the time this goes out. But what advice do you have to photographers who are interested in contest and contest success? I think both advice and kind of that reality check of what you were saying at the beginning, that a lot of the awarded photographers, it wasn't the picture they were expecting.
Yeah, well, I think it's a difficult thing to be able to judge our own work objectively. Um, so throw whatever you can in there, throw stuff that's weird and different. And, I think we're in an era now where competitions are wanting the weird and different. So, here on Vancouver Island, there's like 4 or 5 dive sites where people go like every week. It's one of those 4 or 5 dive sites, and they're fantastic. But if you're doing the same thing that everybody else is doing, you might get lost in the shuffle. So, although I was far from the first person to go and photograph in this lake. You heard Kathy Moran saying this was new to them. This was new to Wildlife Photographer of the Year. This type of image had never been in the competition before. So studying the competitions past and knowing what hasn't been in there can really help. Sharing with friends, family, seeing what they respond to. I'm not saying anything new there, but it's true, and making the effort to do that can go a long way. Um, I mentor a little flock of budding marine conservation photojournalists, and some of them have shared with me their entries for this year. and it's fun. I love going through their images and saying my opinions. And you don't want to give the wrong advice. No, don't enter that one, and then it ends up winning. But photographers love to do that. So I would say just don't be shy and reach out to people and try to have some fun with it. If you're not enjoying the process, then I think that can come through in your images. I mean, again, this wasn't some big project. This was just a day of fun that turned into this whole thing. So you never know. Um, try to try to just enjoy yourself and not take it too seriously. Take it seriously, but don't take it seriously. You know what I mean? Um,
I think it's always
yeah,
good. Take the photography seriously, but maybe don't take yourself too seriously.
yeah.
Is a good way to strike that balance.
Knowing
I
a few
have
of
one
those,
last question, but
sorry.
I wanted to let Matt get in because I know he's got a few.
Well, I was just going to say, knowing a few of those budding conservation photographers who have shared their images with you, your feedback and your opinions on their stuff is hugely appreciated by them. So I just wanted you to know that from, I'm sure they tell you too, but it helps to hear it from somebody else as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for sharing that, Matt. That's good to hear.
And it's cool too because they'll kind of share their what your thoughts were, and then you can kind of weigh them against how like how I feel about those particular images or something like that, or you'll provide some sort of perspective that I hadn't thought about, which I think is what's also helpful to share pictures with other people who aren't emotionally invested in those images, because you'll get an outside, maybe not emotional reaction to them, and a bit more of their inherent value as a picture versus however attached you are.
Yeah, and I
Um,
think that's great that you have a little community there and you guys share pictures and talk about things and talk about the industry. I think that's a really wonderful thing, and we should be doing more of that, I think. And this channel is a great place for that. So thank you guys for doing this in the first place. I know it takes a lot of time and effort, but when I see a new video come up, I'm excited. So please keep.
I
I think
appreciate
we've got
that.
one anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, we got one
Fortunately
good
for us,
thing.
he's the wildlife photographer of the year. So
Yeah, little feather in our cap.
yeah. So the only final thing I wanted to ask before we wrap up is, are you going to continue to enter the wildlife photographer of the year? Because some people, when they win overall, they stop, and
Mhm.
others, do continue to enter. And I'd say it's more common that people stop. So, but not so many necessarily win as young as you'd have.
Yeah, no, my plan is to keep entering. Like I said, this is a nice thing and it's helped my career, but it's not like I'm independently wealthy now. Like I'm gonna have to keep doing it and keep grinding and keep going. So yeah, and the wildlife photographer of the year, if I ever am successful again, then that's great. And even if I'm not, now I know that I have this, that's good enough for me. But I enjoy entering. I think it's fun to think about my images in that way. And I think the Wildlife Photographer of the Year is one of the more fun ones to enter. There's sort of, three or four on my calendar that I really, even if I'm really busy, I really try to enter them. Underwater Photographer of the Year being another one that's really fun to enter. So you're going to make the effort. There are others, as we know, there are dozens and dozens of competitions out there, and it would be a full-time job to enter them all. So some of them it's time dependent for me, and other ones it's like, no, I'm going to make the effort. And Wildlife Photographer of the Year is definitely one that I'm going to make the effort. And it is possible to win overall twice, though I'm not gonna claim I'm anywhere in the Laurent Ballesta's league, but it's proven it can be done. So yeah, I'm going to keep entering.
It's great. And,
I
and it
think
is
Alex may
an
have been.
amazing platform for the images. Even if you're not, the biggest winner, the pictures are still
Oh,
seen
yeah.
by millions of people, and the stories that you care about are seen by millions of people. So it's a wonderful platform like that. Sorry, Matt.
And no, something you've said before, and you just reminded me of it, is that oftentimes, even if you're not the overall winner, it's some of the other images that are placed in that particular year that end up being the ones that everybody remembers. Like I couldn't tell you any images from 2018 other than the Bracula in the cave. That's the one that sticks in my head, and yeah, it's because it's helped
It's a
that it's
weird fish.
underwater. It's a weird fish. But it's an amazing image, and I have no idea what the winning one was that year.
Mm.
Yeah, I agree with both of you that the opportunity to tell these stories, it's almost like a really big publication that comes out
Yeah.
that you're a part of then. And I find that the images in the Wildlife Photographer of the Year, when they initially come out, I'm kind of like, huh, I'm not as blown away as I expected to be. But then over time, I get it. I find that the judges have a good knack for, not every time, but a lot of times, choosing images that will stand the test of time. Um, and I hope that mine is one of those, but you never know. And if it's not, that's how it goes. You can't force that kind of thing. But no, it is a great way to get our images out there, our stories out there, and talk about some of these things.
I think that comes that their knack of finding those resonating images comes from the extended judging period. I think sadly a lot of photo contests now are just judged online, and you get an email from an organizer who says, "Click on the five you like." That's your job done. And I
Yeah.
think when you put judges in a room, you invite them to spend days looking at the images as they whittle them down and talking about the images. It's the pictures that work on the seventh, eighth, 10th viewing as well, or even better than they did on the first viewing, that tend to get awarded. And I think that's why we modeled the Underwater Photographer of the Year contest around that repeat viewing judging panel face to face. And it's why I think the wildlife photographer again, finds those iconic images.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do definitely influence each other. One former judge told me a story about how they were in the judging room and all the other judges wanted this other picture to win overall. And she fought for the image that she wanted and convinced everybody else in the room to come over to her side and award a different image. So those kinds of things do happen in judging rooms and so I agree, Alex, that sort of process can really make a difference.
And the images go on and live for decades and decades because there's no doubt when Wildlife Photography of the Year celebrates its 100th anniversary, they'll be showing your image that night. You can bank on that tonight, and there'll be many books celebrating the wildlife photographer down the years, and there's a very good chance that yours will come up again and again in those. And so, yeah, it's going to go on and on and on. People are going to get to know those tadpoles very well.
Yeah, it was cool walking. There's the one hall in the Natural History Museum where it has all the past overall winners, and knowing that my image is going to be on there is absolutely mind blowing. And seeing which images hold up and which ones hold up less is also really interesting of the past grand title winners. Um, and I kind of when I was looking at those, I was like, well, where does mine kind of fit? And it's not a portrait of a single animal. It's sort of an immersive thing. That's one thing I've heard a lot of people say. It's like feels like you're there. And
Reminds
so
me of
mine,
Carrie's one from a couple of years ago of the bees.
oh
Similar,
yeah.
you know, similar behavior driven, celebrating, lesser creatures,
Mhm.
putting you right in the heart of the action. I think, and I think both of those are very, great examples of really, amazing and contemporary nature photography.
I still love that picture from Karen. Like knowing I've used that lens a lot that she used. It's not autofocus, it's manual focus, it's shallow depth of field. Like that image is a technical achievement and an artistic one. It's one of my favorites of time. So
Right, we should wrap this up because we've had more
yeah.
than enough of your time, especially now you're such a big star. But thank you for remembering us from the lofty heights that you now perch, and would always be very happy to see you on here again because I'm certain, knowing your track record, you're going to produce many more iconic images down the years. So thank you once again, Shane, and congratulations once again. I'll let Matt say his congratulations too.
Well, I've said it profusely a number of times now. But again, Shane, congratulations. That's awesome. It's one of my favorite pictures of yours. And for the first time ever, I think the overall winner was my favorite picture in the competition. So I'm not for whatever that's worth, but thank you again for coming on and telling us the story behind it and behind the whole experience of being there. And I think a lot of us could probably empathize with with your video when you slowly put the phone down and blacked out. Um, if we're ever lucky enough to experience that, I think a lot of us will probably feel the same way. So really cool.
Well, thank you guys. You definitely made me feel very good today. Thank you.